Welcome to Nerds Amalgamated, a podcast that covers the latest events in science, pop culture, and gaming.
I'm the professor, aspiring game developer, sci-fi aficionado, and completely and undeniably a geek trying to take over the world. I'll be breaking down the news from tech to gaming.
I am the DJ, a humble nerd, a big weeb,
and a watcher from the halls of the multiverse.
Just kidding. Anyways, I'll be breaking down all things comics to movies to anime.
Join us and stay hydrated as we quench you with witty banter, unintentionally hilarious hot takes, and trivia more fun than a night at the pub, courtesy of Nerds Amalgamated. Welcome back to Nerds Amalgamated. This week we're talking about the new Oscar rules about AI and watching the actual movie, yet another Ubisoft lawsuit, and growing food in space.
But first, we would like to thank our sponsors, Rez, for giving us this lovely drink to try out.
And what are you trying it with this week, DJ?
I'm going to try it with orange juice. I've got the lovely glass and a lovely bottle of orange juice, and I'm going to put Rez on it. Well, while I'm mixing my lovely lovely glass of orange juice with Rez, tell them our offers that Rez is doing.
Well, they're currently doing a 20% off offer, and you can use our code NERDS15, that's NERDS 15, to get 15% off, or use it with their current sale and help support us.
Hey.
Now there's something else we need to tell you about. DJ, why don't you tell everyone how you got hacked?
You mean the Steam story? Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, let me tell the story while I'm mixing this Rez drink. Okay, I'm mixing now. So weird mixing orange juice with Rez, but here we are. Looks
what
so
color
cool.
is it?
It's still a lovely maroon, beetrooty. It has a beetroot look. Looks like you're drinking beetroot juice, which is nice. Which is also nice. So, story time. So I got a message on Steam the other day where one of my friends says, "Hey, sign up for this esports team that I'm doing." I go, "Okay, sure, fair enough." He wants to vote, so I'll vote, and I did that, and nothing happened, and I went off my merry way without knowing the wiser. And then something happened to you, Professor, afterwards.
Yes, I received a message from you asking me to vote for the esports team.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's going on? He never contacts me through Steam chat. So I ask, why are you contacting me through Steam chat? Why don't you message me where you normally message me? And they reply, can't. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe you forgot your password. And then they send me the link, and I click the link, and it takes me to a Steam sign-in page. And I'm like, this feels so dodgy. And I realize, looking at the URL, this isn't actually on steampowered.com.
Oh, shit.
And that's when I realized DJ had been hacked. So I messaged DJ using our usual communication channel, and he's like, no, I'm not trying to get you to vote for an esports team.
And then I found out, oh, it's the same person that's doing it. Oh, okay. So yeah, and then I got a notification from Steam saying, hey, your account has been locked. Please contact Steam help support. And I had to go through the whole rigmarole. And I think you also helped out in clearing my name as well.
Yep.
And and then the Steam support guys came back and said, "Hey, your account has been compromised. Just change your password, and all's well and ends well." So
so we got the Steam account back, but always check before you sign into anything that the URL is for the website you expect.
Alright.
That's what we call a phishing attack in the business.
Oh yeah. By the way, orange juice mixed with Rez, pretty cool mix. And once again, I will say this: do not try this at home.
Or do, we can't stop you.
Yeah, just don't sue us when things go wrong.
Well, on to our first topic. Why don't you take it away with the new Oscar rules, DJ?
Yeah, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences has a major change to its Oscar voting process. Starting with the 98th Academy Awards, Oscar voters are required to watch every film nominated in a category before they're eligible to cast a final vote in that category.
Finally,
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard people talking about how they don't have to do that for so long. And now they're finally making it a rule that you have to actually know about the thing that you're voting for.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Why would that not be a rule from the inception?
maybe they thought being an Academy Award member was just a side gig, so they thought, it's not much. I don't get paid to do this shit. It's like being a modded Discord. You don't get paid for this. But so a couple of the key points rule change. So as I said earlier, Academy Award members are confirmed that they have seen all nominated films in any category they wish to vote for. If a member has not watched every nominee in a category, they cannot vote in that category. The Academy will track through its exclusive platform, the Academy Screening Room. Films watched there are automatically logged. If a member watches a nominee elsewhere, such as a film festival or cinema, they must submit a form detailing when and where they view. As for the scope, this rule applies to all 27 competitive Oscar categories for the final voting round. It does not apply to the nomination stage, except for a few categories that already has stricter requirements. So
So how does a movie go about getting nominated for the Oscars? Like, do they pick the movies that made the most money, or the movies that got above an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes? How do they decide who gets shortlisted?
For the longest time, I always thought it was basically whoever racked up the most money in the box office. But how are Oscar? They are submitted by, so the films and individuals are submitted by studios, production companies, or agents to be considered for nomination. So it's a submission thing. So let's say, for example, QT has a bunch of short films, and your film is one of the best. So QT in that stage will submit to the Academy Awards crowd that, hey, your movie is the should be nominated for best movie because this was the best of the bunch that we had at our university. Do you you get so
That's
far?
fair enough.
Yeah.
So you need to be actively participating to be nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, there was an artist in the UK who, in protest of the censorship laws and the classification laws, submitted a film that was literally watching paint dry.
What?
Because, well, the people who are responsible for classifying films in the UK have to watch the entire thing. So what he did was held a Kickstarter or something along those lines to raise funding to make them watch a movie that was like 18 hours long of just a wall that had been painted drying.
Oh yeah, here we go. It's the it was a 2023 experimental protest film. The title of it was called Paint Drying by an artist named Charlie Shackleton.
Yeah, so what stops me from flooding the Oscars with nominations for shitty movies?
I think it comes down to who are the
And nobody
judges.
do that. That's my idea. I'm going to do it first.
You should patent it and then patent it and copyright it. I think it comes down to whoever were the judges at the time and how sane they were.
Yeah, they probably have some sort of vetting process to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah. By the way, the paint dry movie, it went on for 10 hours and 7 minutes. Damn, that's as long as a Snyder Cut Justice League Snyder Cut. Longer,
And more
actually.
entertaining.
And wow, and in 4K resolution. Wow, 4K. But anyways, the rationale for this the change aims to ensure more informed, fair, and accountable voting, reducing the influence of coattail voting. which is basically supporting nominees based on reputation or popularity rather than merit, and increasing the chances for smaller or lesser known films to be recognized. See, that's interesting. That's interesting because I've seen a couple of opinions about certain movies that they relied on the popularity of the movie rather than the merit of the movie.
Yeah, that's a common complaint about the Oscars.
And the biggest and so there was an article that talks more about it. It was the and one of the a couple of the categories include best animated film, where someone wrote this. Okay, if you call anything a snub this year, it was the Lego Movie, which was one of the best movies of the year. I don't know what happened there, but it is inconceivable to me. Of the 5 they did nominate, my favorite is Big Hero 6, which was adorable and original.
Yeah, the Lego Movie was probably the best movie to come out the year it came out.
Here's another one for you. I've only watched the ones that my kid wants to watch, so I didn't see the Box Trolls, but I saw Big Hero 6 and I saw How to Train Your Dragon, number 2. We both connected to Big Hero 6. I just found it to be more satisfying. The big snub for me was Chris Miller and Philip Lord not getting in for the Lego Movie. When a movie is that successful and culturally hits all the right chords and does that kind of box office, for that movie not to be in over these two obscure freaking Chinese fucking things that nobody ever freaking saw. Apparently, it's a reference to the Japanese film The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, as well as the Irish film Song of the Sea. That it continues. That was my biggest bitch. Most people didn't even know what they were. How does that happen? That to me is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And this person voted Big Hero 6.
Well, at least they voted for a movie they'd seen.
Sure, yeah, but then as I said, like the whole influence of coattail voting, like it if you were to make coattail voting a thing, that would just be put a hint on, no, not a hint, put a break into director's confidence, for example, say like, wow, was my movie really that good, or were you just following the marketing?
Yeah,
Like it won't be it won't be, it's like my project won't be based on, wasn't nominated on merit. It was just voted on because people liked it because the marketing was cool.
fair enough.
But back to the rules. There's also historical context. So previously, voters were only encouraged, well, although not required, to see all nominees, relying on an honor system. Some categories, like international feature and documentary, already had stricter viewing requirements. An honor system, eh?
Yep. There's no rule that you have to watch it. They just like, yeah, it would be best if you watch it before you vote, but you don't have to. And that's the
Ah,
problem they're solving by
doing this sort of
making
rule.
it a required rule and implementing their own streaming platform.
The reaction so far to this has been a mixed reaction of surprise, relief, and skepticism, with many questioning why such a requirement was not enforced earlier.
Yep.
Some industry insiders and comedians have expressed disbelief that voters could previously cast ballots without seeing all contenders, which I think that's justifiable. Like, can you imagine going to someone and say, did you watch this movie that was nominated? And people go, nah, I didn't see it. I saw the one that won that won the award, not the nomination. But there are implications to this though. So the implications would be voters can participate in categories where they have seen all nominees, potentially the number of votes in some categories, but increasing the legitimacy of the award.
Yeah. It does feel more legitimate, but it does mean that if you don't watch every movie, you don't get to vote. And honestly, that's probably a good thing.
But here's a question for you. Let's say, for example, you want to watch the best animated feature, for example, okay? But you don't want to. But all the films that you're seeing, there are too many of them. So you decide to go to, let's say, best documentary, and there's like 4 or 5 nominees, for example. You reckon people would do that though?
Yeah, I could see some people being overwhelmed by the number of nominations.
Yeah, and saying, "Oh my god, I have to waste 4 or 5 hours of my time watching all these movies where I could just watch like 4 movies at a time."
Maybe the Oscars should have a panel of judges then who are responsible and are paid to watch every movie.
Okay,
And because if you're just relying on volunteers, this is a hoop to jump through for volunteers.
Hmm.
So if you're just relying on volunteers, it's going to scare some of them away. But if there's a panel of judges who are being paid to vote and to see every movie, there's no excuse for them not to see every movie.
Yeah. And the other problem is like trying to track down every person's every person's track viewing numbers, and also making them self-report. Like, are you gonna really trust them? Like, if there's already there's already software to trick the system into knowing into tricking the digital tracking systems.
Well, maybe it would require them to submit a receipt.
Yeah, I guess.
Or you do what surveys do, and you throw in a couple of trick questions. So, like, if somebody says, "Yes, I watched Lord of the Rings," then you say, "Did you like the scene where Frodo makes out with Sam?" And
Yeah.
that never happened in the movies. Doesn't happen in the books. Probably happens in the fanfic.
Yeah.
But it's so obviously wrong that if you have seen the movie, you know it never happens. But if you haven't seen the movie and you're just going by vibes that these two have a huge bromance, maybe they do make out at some point.
Yeah. By the way, interesting fact. The article posted about the animation awards. They even provided the voter profile. So voter number 1, a longtime member of the Academy's 378 member Public Relations branch, female. Voter number 2, a longtime member of the 387 members Short Film and Feature Animation branch, who was nominated for an Oscar, male. Voter number 3, a member of the 386 writers branch, nominated for an Oscar within the last decade. Voter number 4,
So we could dox these people.
yeah, bizarrely.
Yeah, we could dox them. I'm sure someone with enough time and resources could figure out who they're talking about.
Yeah. Voter number 4, a member of the Academy's 1,150 member actors branch, who accumulated most of his credits in the 1970s. Voter number 5, a member of the 428 member sound branch, who's been nominated for Oscar. Both male, by the way. Voter number 6, the member of 386 members writers branch, who won an Oscar as a female. And lastly, voter number 7, a member of the Academy's 1,150 members branch, whose first credit came in the 1950s and who has acted in numerous opposite people who received Oscar noms for their performance. By the way, the that Big Hero 6 I was talking about, the with the Chinese movies, even though one's Japanese and one's Irish, that was from voter number 5.
Yeah, I feel like this is de-anonymizing these voters. Like, they haven't explicitly said this is Bob, but I feel like it's not a huge leap to be able to figure out who they're talking about.
Yeah. And what's crazy about this? It feels like most of the people that are part of this voting branch, they sound out of touch, if anything. Like, when you read the comment, when you we'll put the article on the show notes, but when you read the comments and you look at the people that were behind, when you look at the people that said that, you're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, it's also not a good look for the Academy for their representatives, who are these unnamed voters, but they're members, so they are basically representatives of the Academy. It's not a good look for them to be revealed to not actually be doing their job.
Yeah. By the way, here's another one for you. This is under best visual effects. Voter number 7. So voter number 7 is a member of the actors branch whose first credit came in 1950s. This is what he said about best visual effects, and majority of them were going for Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, actually, no, it was a tie between Guardians of the Galaxy and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes to win best visual effects, and the tiebreaker. This was supposed to be the tiebreaker, and this was his comment. I didn't vote here. I am not so much into special effects pictures, you know. That's the world that we're in now. But I'm not in that world. I'm more interested in character-driven stories. My vote, I abstain.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Some of the opinions as well. Voter number one said, "I don't think I should be able to vote in this category either, but I can't resist another opportunity to support Guardians of the Galaxy. It should get something." Voter number four said, "I haven't seen Captain America, and I haven't seen X-Men. Interstellar was okay. Guardians of the Galaxy was fun, but I love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes."
Okay, so what's the other new Oscar rule?
So aside from this rule change, which I think that's it's a good addition. Another one, it's basically saying that films made with artificial intelligence or generative AI tools are eligible to compete for Oscars.
The robots are
But
coming for your jobs.
although there was a clarification to this. The clarification is that the use of AI or digital technologies in a film will, quote, neither help nor harm its chances of nominations or winning an award.
That's good.
So films incorporating AI such as voice cloning, accent refinement, or image generation can be nominated and win Oscars. And recent winners like The Brutalist or Amelia Perez, they used AI tools for performance enhancement and voice work.
So hold on, did those movies win before they clarified the ruling that movies can use generative AI?
I don't think Amelia Perez didn't win anything. It was nominated for a lot of awards, but it didn't win anything. But
Oh,
I
okay.
know
So they were nominated, but they didn't have a clear ruling on whether they could use AI.
yeah.
That feels like something they should have figured out sooner.
Yeah. So while the AI use is permitted, the Academy emphasizes that human creative input is crucial. Each Oscar branch will consider, and I quote, the degree to which a human was at the heart of the creative authorship when selecting winners. So I think this feels like a meet me halfway approach.
How so?
Well, the AI doesn't confer or benefit or penalty in the nomination, and the Academy Science and Technology Council helps shape these guidelines to ensure human artistry remains at the forefront. So this
Yeah,
feels,
so do you reckon they should have a separate category for AI supported films?
I I would say it's too early to tell, but if they do head to that direction, I don't know. I mean, it would take the shine out of the whole Best Picture award, Best Picture award. I mean, sorry.
To have a movie that is a AI generated film.
Yeah, like can you imagine Best AI movie?
Yeah, but it's also a thing that's not going to go anywhere.
Although one thing is certain, though, you are right that AI is coming for everyone. So the question is going to be how people are going to react to this, and yeah, it's been a lot of people are still debating about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they've
there'll be debates forever.
and most of the debates, the concerns for the debate comes over job security, ethical use, and the emotional depth of AI generated content. I
That's
mean,
all very fair.
this sort of complaint came from the 2023 Hollywood strikes,
Yeah.
which led to the union agreement. In
Yeah, it's all about protecting jobs. Because if we replace every human with an AI, there won't be any humans with money to buy the products.
Yeah, and all the consumers will be just reduced to an algorithm of sorts.
Yeah.
Although, mind you, for the other question I have to ask if it comes to AI movies would be the level of transparency.
As
Like
in, do they reveal how they used AI?
yeah, do they have to
Yeah, they
reveal
should
how to
do that.
use? Yeah.
Like, I'm doing a uni course at the moment,
Hmm.
and if I use AI, I have to sign a declaration saying how I used it. I don't see why the Oscars wouldn't require movies to do a similar thing.
Yeah. Although, mind you, the Academy has considered requiring filmmakers disclose AI use during submissions, but it's not currently mandated. So Yeah, I think they should be further reinforcements on that one.
Okay.
But what do you reckon with these two new rules that have been added of sorts? You reckon this would make Oscars fun again, essentially?
Well, Oscars haven't been fun since Will Smith slapped.
Chris
Who was it?
Rock.
Chris Rock? Yeah. I mean, I'm not interested in watching an award show, so it's just a bunch of look how great we are.
Yeah.
I don't have a personal connection to any of those people, so I give no damns about watching an award show for someone I have no personal connection to.
I understand that, but then wouldn't you be fascinated to see, let's say for example, if an AI movie wins, would you like to see the audience's reaction to it? Like the actors and actresses, would you like to see how they react? Like who knows, you might
No,
see Jonah
I
Hill
see it
just
on the
go,
news.
oh yeah. Like, could you see the couple of actors going, "Boo! You suck! Get the fuck off
I
the
could,
stage!" Like Tom
I
Hanks
could,
getting
yeah.
all mad about this.
I could see people booing an AI movie,
Hmm.
but also keep in mind anything that is interesting that happens at the Oscars is all over the news for weeks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nobody cares about the Oscars. They care about
The
Will Smith
drama,
slapping Chris Rock.
the
It's all
drama.
about the drama.
Although, mind you, what's interesting with these two new changes, it's interesting how they're prioritizing human creativity and authorship in both of these in both of these.
Yeah, they haven't accepted AI as being equal to a human yet. And maybe they never should. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't think current AI is equal to a human, but what is the measure of a man? Eventually, we're going to create something that is so indistinguishable from a human, we won't be able to tell the difference. And then we'll have Blade Runner.
Oh shit! So does that mean we'll see you as Harrison Ford
Well,
chasing down AI bots?
I mean, Harrison Ford ethically is the Blade Runners are basically bounty hunters hunting escaped slaves. Now, those slaves did kill their owners in the movie before they escaped, but enslaving someone is unethical. So,
Yeah.
since the Nexus replicants are so close to human, it's unethical to keep them as slaves. So, them killing their owners and running away is a perfectly understandable reaction, and you probably shouldn't be hunting them down and killing them without a trial.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Blade Runner 2049 though. I've missed out on seeing that one in the last decade since it came out. So I don't know how that goes into the philosophy behind Blade running, but this got a lot deeper than I expected it to.
Yeah. What?
And
Okay.
speaking of law enforcement, there's yet another Ubisoft lawsuit going on. Last week we spoke about a lawsuit against them for shutting down the crew. This week we're looking at a lawsuit against Ubisoft for having an online requirement for single player games.
Wait, what's the requirement?
That you have to log into an online account to play a single player game.
What?
Yes, I've got the complaint here. The European Centre for Digital Rights, or NOYB, is suing Ubisoft on behalf of a complainant whose name is redacted about unlawful data collection. The complainant found they couldn't launch a single player game without connecting to the internet, and that Ubisoft collected data during the play session. And under the Article 6 of the GDPR, there's no valid legal basis for the data collection. So they request that the Data Protection Authority will enforce the GDPR against Ubisoft and impose a fine.
Because in Europe, they're very heavy into the data privacy, aren't they?
They are, and frankly, we need some of that here. We're not as bad as the US, but GDPR is a great law. So the game in question is Far Cry Primal.
That's an
Which-
old game.
It is, but they do mention that there are other games involved that have the same requirement. They point out the function of the video game is akin to a board game that you can only play alone. So the complainant played Far Cry Primal through Steam in September 2024. When trying to launch the game offline, the game tried to force them to log into a Ubisoft account. And that's an interesting question because Steam also has online DRM for single player games. It's not as strict as some of the others, but it'll be interesting to see if this gets applied to them too, or if it doesn't because they're an American company and Ubisoft is based in France. So the complainant requested the data that Ubisoft was collecting under the GDPR. You can submit a complaint and get all the data that they are collecting about you. So in the data that Ubisoft gave, it says when the game was launched, when it was quit, and how long the game was running. But the gamer decided to do his own investigation, or their own investigation, and ran the game for 10 minutes and discovered 150 unique DNS packages were sent during the 10 minutes. So a DNS package is when you ask, a DNS server is basically a phone book for the internet.
Oh,
When you
shit.
go to google.com, your computer translates google.com into an IP address, which is the actual address of the website. But so you don't have to remember that Google is at whatever IP address it's at, which is a string of numbers, they use a DNS server. So a DNS server converts that string of numbers into a URL and back. And basically there's 150 attempts for the Far Cry Primal to connect to a website or server using DNS in 10 minutes, which is a lot.
And
There
really
were
quick
also
too.
56, sorry?
And really quick too.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
There were also 56 requests to initiate a connection between the complainant's computer and external servers. So it was pinging other servers and asking where their address is, and then it tried to connect to some of them. And those servers belong to Google, Amazon, Datadog, and others.
No.
Yeah, some data is labeled metrics, which presumably is stuff like how long the game was played. But the transmissions were encrypted using TLS, so there's no way for the gamer to know what is in the packet that got sent.
So TLS, is that the transport layer security thing?
Yeah. So they sent in a complaint to Ubisoft using their customer support ticket system and asked, what's going on here? Ubisoft said, the data sent when launching one of games, spelling in citation, is an ownership check on our servers to validate that the player's account owns the game they're trying to launch. So they're claiming, so this is the best name of a customer support person, Ubi Demise. Demise means downfall,
Death.
basically.
Yeah, death.
Yeah, so Ubisoft downfall. Are they working from the inside to bring down Ubisoft?
Oh shit, we got a Splinter Cell. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, so the reply doesn't actually explain what's going on with the communications being sent by the game.
It feels like a cop-out. So like,
Yeah.
oh, we were trying to see whether you actually owned this game or not, but yeah, right.
It's the standard we do this for DRM, but they don't explain the rest of the details. And there's a lot going on there. Like, if it's just checking that you own the game, it would only need to talk to Ubisoft servers. It wouldn't need to connect to any of the others.
And find out which other accounts you have as well.
Yeah, so we don't know what it's reading, but the complaint says that it is personal data because it contains an ID that can identify the player.
And I
Oh.
like
No, go on.
I was gonna say, and I like Niob's opinion in terms of digital trespassing, as they call. Say, if you want to enter someone's house, you should be invited. Otherwise, you're trespassing. If the behavior is illegal in the physical sphere, it should be illegal in the digital one as well. There is no reason to apply a different standard.
And that's true. If I made a program that would send back personal data about somebody and I installed it on their computer without permission, I would go to jail.
But what's the difference between what you just said there and what Ubisoft is doing, per se? If we were to try and differentiate it.
Well, Ubisoft's a big company, so they think they're above the law, and yeah, there's not really a difference as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, this is another example of Ubisoft going crazy. I mean, we recently saw the Stop Killing Games lawsuit
Yeah.
and how they're trying to file most miss. They've also been going through other hits as well besides lawsuits. There was Assassin's Creed Shadows, how it was hyped to be the best game of the to be coming out, but it turned out to be a dud of sorts.
Well, no, it wasn't a dud. It's still one of the most sold games of, I think it was March. It sold a ton. They made their money on it. It wasn't a financial flop. It might not have made as much as they expected, but it still made a ton of money.
Okay, I mean, I'll take your word for it.
I think a lot of people wanted it to be a flop, and that's why the narrative is that it was a flop. But if you look at the actual sales number, it's actually pretty popular.
Yeah. Also, mind you, they on the wake of this, they've also they struck a deal with Tencent that will see a $4.3 billion spearhead development on new Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six games.
Yes, another teaming with Tencent, who are also known for privacy violations.
Was it birds of a feather flock together?
Yep.
Okay, so
All right, Hoons, I get it. You have loud cars. Go away. The Hoons have been going up and down my street again.
oh, jeez. Okay, this lawsuit, as damaging as it, will this be will this send a message to the gaming industry? Say like, hey guys, this sort of behavior, that's a big no-no.
Oh, yes, it will. The GDPR has teeth.
How big of a teeth and how sharp of a
Sharp enough that if this goes through, Ubisoft will regret ever collecting this data. Right, the fine won't be as big as I'm sure we're all hoping it would be for illegally collecting personal data and sharing it with third parties who are uninvolved. Like, why does Google need to know anything about me playing a Ubisoft game? But it's still a pretty substantial fine. And I will point out, they say in the complaint that Ubisoft's claim that they only use the data to verify ownership is false and unnecessary, because Steam already verifies ownership and the game was bought through Steam. And Ubisoft has a hidden offline option. If a game is launched offline, then they can't verify the ownership by the way they would claim. So why would the proof of ownership be necessary when you're connected to the internet, but not when you're offline?
And also,
doesn't make sense, Ubisoft.
It doesn't make sense. You're right, and it also begs the question: whatever happened to the concept of two-factor authentication that many programs use nowadays? Like, doesn't Ubisoft have that?
I assume so, but that's sort of irrelevant to this case. Two-factor is something you consent to. The point of two-factor authentication is to make it harder to steal your account, because the person stealing the account needs to have your password and also have access to your phone or your what's the word for the device? Like a YubiKey, which is a type of USB stick that basically stores your passwords on it. So when you plug it into the computer and enter your password, it acts as the second password and lets you in.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot harder for thieves to get into your account.
By the way, you were saying about fines in Europe. Did you hear about Google and Meta? Did you hear about Meta and Apple being fined in Europe, and how much was the fine?
Yeah, I don't remember how much it was, but it was not as much as I'd have hoped, considering how big Google and Meta are.
Oh,
but
Apple.
It was still... Sorry, yeah, Apple and Meta.
Yeah.
Not as much as I'd have liked to see, but also GDPR fines scale with time. So if you don't fix the problem, the fine just gets bigger.
For those curious, so Apple and Meta are ordered to pay a combined 700 million euros, which is 599 million pounds, under the legislation to curb the power of tech.
Yes, and here's my favourite section of the complaint here. If you want to enter someone's home, you should be invited, otherwise you're trespassing. If the behaviour is illegal in the physical sphere, it should be illegal in the digital one as well. There is no reason to apply a different standard. And then the best bit, the balancing test thus necessitates the controller, who is Ubisoft, asks a data subject for permission to enter their computer. Just like how Ingvar Kamprad, founder of IKEA, needs to knock if he wants to know how I put together my Billy.
Wow, that's one hell of an example.
Well, it's the same deal. Does IKEA have any right to know how you use a Billy, which is, I think, a shelving unit? And if they did need to know how I use it, do they have the right to come into my home and just take photos of it without asking permission? They don't. So why does Ubisoft get to? And yeah, ties into right to repair, because if you buy something and truly own it, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
You don't have to maintain it in some particular condition to return it to the owner, the person who sold it to you. So I can buy an IKEA shelf and drill holes in it if I wanted to. Or I can buy software and I should be able to install it and modify it, but I can't because DRM.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been really leaning towards FOSS lately. I still play closed source games because I'm a addict, but FOSS software, so free and open source software, doesn't come with DRM. You can edit it and make it do whatever you want if you have the skills and care to do it. So I'm really interested to see how this case turns out.
Though I'm wondering, will the case that could bankrupt Ubisoft alone?
Well, if it does, someone will just buy them out, like 10 cent. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes and whether Ubisoft will have to pay a fine. I hope they do, because that would really, what are they doing with this data? We don't know. It's going to these data companies, and what are they doing with that data? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the near future, we could see this completely change in Europe, and that will hopefully carry over to the rest of the world. So I'm just looking at the Blue Sky account for NYOB, and I can't read most of it because a lot of it's in German, but they post Facepalm of the Week, which is a weekly post about how companies are breaking the law. Like, here's one for last week. Meta starts to train its AI systems on EU data anyway without consent and in breach of the GDPR. Don't break the law and then complain when you get fined. Do you have any other thoughts about this, DJ?
Nah, I'm good.
Oh, this is disappointing. I've just scrolled further back,
Yeah.
and on April Fool's Day, they posted that the reality of GDPR enforcement is so dire we don't even need to make up a joke. They did an analysis and found that 1.3% of cases actually result in a fine.
1.3 cases, okay.
1.3%.
Okay.
Which means that most get away with it.
Ah.
So, yeah, we'll see where this goes. But until then, if we ever need to go to space, we won't need to pack lunch.
Boo.
Oh, you complain about my segue?
Yes.
You have no right. Yours are even worse.
Yeah.
So this experiment is to grow lab-grown food. It's a part of an ESA experiment to find ways to reduce the cost of feeding an astronaut, which can cost more than £20,000 a day.
To feed an astronaut, £20,000?
Yeah,
damn.
Because getting their food up there costs so much. A rocket launch is expensive.
Yeah, makes sense. But with the amount of raw materials to make a rocket and the amount of fuel to send it up to space, that's
it's gotten a
justifiable.
lot cheaper since they've started using reusable rockets, but it is still so expensive. So the project wants to find out if you can grow food in low gravity, high radiation environments. And the contact at the ESA, not at the ESA, at Frontier Space, which is working on the project, Dr. Aqil Shamsul, says that, if we're going to ever have factories in orbit and on the moon and want to be a multi-planetary species, then we're going to need to have a way to feed people up there.
Yeah, but building a factory up in the moon, that's no easy walk in the park. I mean,
No, it's not. Actually, the second Delta V book, Critical Mass, is all about that. But this particular experiment, because building a factory on the moon is a long way off, but we'll never get there if we don't take these little steps now. And lab-grown food, apparently you can eat lab-grown chicken in the US and Singapore, and lab-grown steak is waiting approval in the UK and Israel. But this is basically, you take ingredients, which are the components that make up the food, and then form it into something approximating the natural product. So the experiment is they're looking at starting with protein-enhanced mashed potatoes, and they compare it to the replicators from Star Trek.
See, that would be that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it's not quite there, but they're using bioreactors to grow yeast, which produces extra vitamins. And that's not the only thing you can do with a bioreactor. Genetically modified yeast is a huge potential. So the experiment will involve launching a CubeSat on Phoenix, which is Europe's first commercial returnable spacecraft, and orbit the Earth for 3 hours before returning to Earth and examine it in the lab. Then next year they're going to send a bigger, better reactor.
Will it include blackjack and...
No, it won't.
Oh.
They're too expensive.
Oh.
Actually, they probably have a deck of cards on the ISS. The problem is they just float around everywhere, so you'd want to have like Velcro on them and a Velcro table so you can Velcro them down. Yeah, I wonder if they have a deck of cards on the ISS. Now you've got me wondering.
That should be your honest thesis.
Yeah, except I'm not working on space, I'm working on cybersecurity.
Yeah, yeah.
So they have a chef, Jacob Razakowski, working on growing food using naturally occurring fungi. Instead of genetically modified yeast, they're using naturally occurring fungi that produce what they want, and they're working to replicate any kind of cuisine in space. They have Helen Sharman, the UK's first astronaut, who has a PhD in chemistry, as taster-in-chief. And the project of the day, when the BBC visited them, was creating spicy dumplings and dipping sauce.
Okay, on paper, that on a normal day, that should be very tantalizing. What was the reaction for this version?
Apparently, it's really good. So lab-grown dumplings are really good. And that's actually a good use for lab-grown meat, because lab-grown meat doesn't have the texture of natural meat yet. There's experiments to make it that way, but I'm not aware of anything that actually, produces a steak. It produces meat, but it's more like minced meat. So it's also really interesting. They're looking at spicy dumplings. Your sense of taste changes in space because you are dealing with a whole bunch of stuff like your head fills up with fluid and your nose gets blocked. There's a really interesting episode of Heston's Mission Impossible, which was a Heston Blumenfeld show.
Ah, yeah.
We spoke about him a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
But he would try to overhaul food for unusual places, like making delicious food for submariners, or in one episode he actually made tinned food for an astronaut.
Yeah, this so even though it's Heston's Impossible season, the episodes were one was Cinema World, another one was for British Airways, and the final one was the Royal Navy.
Yes, I think the astronaut he cooked for was Tim Peake, but don't quote me on that. So we'll take a short break to advertise Res, our sponsor. At drinkrez.com, drinkrez.com, you can buy Res for 15% off with our code NERDS15 and help support us. The flavors available are crisp appleberry. You can mix it with whatever you want, apparently.
I'm enjoying my apple juice infused Res.
I thought it was orange juice.
Yeah, it is orange juice. Sorry, my bad.
Which is funny because in Norwegian, the word for orange is apple.
Hey!
And a bottle of orange juice is labelled Epelsin. Anyway, Res claims to help you maintain your mental concentration and focus, relieves weariness and fatigue, decreases mental and cognitive fatigue, and reduces eye strain. And I really like it. It's a lot like the effects of drinking an energy drink, except it doesn't taste horrible like most energy drinks.
And the effects are long lasting as well. Like it's not like 1 minute you drink, the next minute you crash and burn. This
Yeah,
one's
there's no crash.
Yeah, no crash on, which is awesome.
So, on to our shoutouts. On the 25th of April 1954, the first practical solar cell was demonstrated by Bell Labs. Bell Labs, part of the company Bell Telephones, developed the first practical silicon solar cell. The cells had an efficiency of about 6%. The New York Times wrote that solar cells will eventually lead to a source of limitless energy of the sun. Modern solar cells are so much more efficient, but you got to start somewhere.
Yep.
So the inventors were Calvin Souther Fuller, Darrell Chapin, and Gerald Pearson. Why am I struggling so much with words today?
Maybe you haven't drank a nice, cool glass of res.
That's probably it. So Darrell Chapin was trying to develop power sources for remote locations. Calvin Fuller and Gerald Pearson were working on semiconductors by introducing impurities to them. When they tested silicon with gallium, they discovered that it produced an electric current when exposed to light. And even at 6% efficient, they were still much more efficient than previous solar cells. And on the 25th of April 1961, Robert Noyce is granted a patent for an integrated circuit. Noyce worked at Fairchild Semiconductor and invented the first true monolithic integrated circuit. It was made of silicon compared to Kilby's previous implementation made of germanium. And modern integrated circuits are descended from Noyce's design rather than Kilby's. Integrated circuits are basically if you take a bunch of transistors and smush them all together, which was a huge step forward in computer miniaturization.
There was a whole lawsuit about this.
Yeah, there was a lawsuit between Robert Noyce and this Kilby fellow, who I can't find his first name here, who had developed a germanium integrated circuit. Kilby worked at Texas Instruments, who you might have heard of from the TI-84 calculator, which I'm sure most high school students recognize.
By the way, the first name for Kilby is Jack Kilby.
Okay. Between 1961 and 1965, the Apollo program was the world's largest single consumer of integrated circuits. And on the 23rd of April this year, we passed the 30th anniversary of Satellaview, which was a satellite modem peripheral for the Super Famicom. It allowed you to download games, magazines, and other media from satellites, which is nuts. It's absolutely nuts that people were using satellites to play games back then.
And this is before like modems and stuff were. Well, this was before the broadband was a thing. Like back then,
Yeah.
broadband was like some guy's crackpot theory.
Well, this was 1995, so early years of the internet. Like the internet was just beginning to take off in the public eye.
Do you still remember the 50K modem sounds?
Yes, I do.
Good time.
I'm not sure I ever had a 56K modem, but I do remember the sound. I'm not sure what modem we had. It was built into my parents' blue Macintosh G3. Not Bondi blue, the other blue.
My end, we used to have a separate modem for 6K, but then I think we moved into different places. We had to install it into the computer rather than using the external modem.
Fair enough.
But that's insane with the Nintendo. They have a modem peripheral.
Yeah, a satellite modem in the 1995 for playing games. Do you have any idea how expensive a satellite is?
Don't get me it'd be pretty expensive.
So Nintendo purchased a stake in the company Saint Giga, I believe, st.giga, and produced the Satellaview as an add-on for a more adult-oriented market. That sounds dirtier than it probably intended to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Satellaview lasted until June 30th, 2000, when it was fully discontinued. Satellaview never released outside Japan, and the service was provided free of charge, but you had to buy the modem or rent it.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Nintendo viewed... Sorry?
Sorry, I was gonna say, can you imagine going to your nearest blockbuster and say, "Hey, can I borrow your Satellaview for a week?"
Yeah, I'm sure they would have been in on it.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if the satellite dish they used would have been something that like that. They say in this in the notes that the rental was for 6 months.
Oh shit.
So I imagine you would have had to install a satellite on your roof.
Yeah.
Nintendo viewed it as a commercial failure, and unfortunately, most of the data that was broadcast on Satellaview has been lost to time. You can get a BSX application cartridge, which is the modem, and hook up to private servers these days, though. And DJ, what is our messed up moment?
Well, since it's a few days ago we got the 60th anniversary of the Beatles album Help, I decided to
Do you need somebody?
I needed somebody yesterday, okay?
Not
Needed
just
somebody
anybody.
Yeah. But you've seen the movie Yesterday, right?
I
Or you've
haven't,
heard
but I'm aware of the plot. That's the one where the guy is the only guy who remembers the Beatles, and he starts impersonating them, basically, isn't it?
Yeah,
He
yep.
he plays their music and everyone loves it.
So here's the messed up part about this, okay? So the main character ends up meeting two people who also remember the Beatles, and they gave him the address where he could visit one of the four. And in this universe, where the band that never made big, John Lennon in this universe lived out of the limelight and grew with the wife that he loved at the until the ripe old age of 78. And what did the main character do when he saw John Lennon living his life? We went up to him, hugged him.
That's a lot nicer than what's his name? I've forgotten his name. Chapman? What
You mean
that
the
guy
guy?
did to the guy
Oh,
who
you mean?
killed John Lennon.
Oh
Hugging him
yeah.
would have been a lot nicer.
But can you imagine Can you imagine a world where John Lennon is alive?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what he does in his later years.
Yeah. There we go. It's yeah, you're right. It was Mark David Chapman. Apparently he apparently, if I recall, Chapman killed Lennon because he read a book, Catcher in the Rye, or something like that.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting fact. If he hadn't run into John Lennon first, like if he hadn't killed John Lennon first, he was going to kill David Bowie. He was like, I'm going to kill one of these two. And it ended up being John Lennon.
Oh man. So Lennon was at the wrong place at the wrong time kind of guy.
Yeah.
Oh.
And as a massive Bowie fan, I'm thankful.
Oh.
But a Beatles fan would probably disagree with me.
Uh-huh. I could totally see the Beatles bros coming to us right now and say, "You are a monster."
I mean, I am, but I don't see how that's relevant.
Yes, if they want if they can if they want to give their gripes about this, they can send us to send their come to our Discord,
Join our Discord server.
yeah, join our Discord server, or send an email to nerds.amalgamated@gmail.com.
Okay, well, that was a rather saccharine messed up moment. On to our wacky movie. On the 25th of April 1963, The Day of the Triffids premiered in the UK. The Day of the Triffids is basically a zombie story based on the book of the same name, where plants that can walk start killing and eating people. They basically kill you with poison, and you die and rot, and they absorb your nutrients.
Oh shit! It's like a combination of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Happening.
Yeah, it's basically The Happening, except man-made, is the implication. The implication is that the Triffids are GMO.
Yeah.
In the book, anyway. And everyone's gone blind because of a meteor shower that is possibly a military weapon gone wrong. So, in the story, some of the survivors team up and travel to the Isle of Wight, where there's, at the end of the story, where they hope to be able to eventually recolonize the Earth after finding a way to eradicate the Triffids. And in this movie, they added 2 people to the cast when they realized there was less than an hour of usable footage. The whole lighthouse sequence was only added to extend the movie's running time. And that relates to the ending because at the end of this version of the movie, they spray seawater on the Triffids and they're like, oh my god, seawater melts them.
Wait, okay, so we've got The Happening, the invasion of the Body Snatchers, and War of the Worlds.
I was going to go Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah, oh that too, yeah, that too. But that's but killing them with seawater. That wouldn't make sense now.
Well, seawater does kill plants, but it doesn't, like, melt them. And the Triffids inspired the E.T. plants from the movie E.T. There's a scene where an aircraft flies over. They show a de Havilland DHC-1 chipmunk, a monoplane, which means one wing, and it crashes. When they go to the crash site, they discover the remains of a DH-82A Tiger Moth, a biplane with its top wing removed. And the Tiger Moth with the same tail number still exists, but has not flown since 2003.
Must be for good reason.
Yeah, well, my dad's flown a Tiger Moth.
Oh yeah, what was it? What was the experience like?
I don't know, I'd have to ask him again.
Okay, that's by the way, with the Triffids. When you think about the whole space growing stuff in space, can you imagine that could be a potential future?
Oh no.
Like, thanks to Monsanto and their idiocy, the plants went awry and covered the entire world. Now they call me the Wind Maker.
Okay. Well, apparently there's a rumour that the sound made by the Triffids was achieved by smoking a bong.
Whoever thought of that idea, I will say thank you.
Foley artists would have thought of it.
Yep, indeed.
And it influenced the movie 28 Days Later, because both stories feature the main character waking up in hospital and leaving it to discover a apocalypse has occurred and trying to find fellow survivors, including a scene where both characters look at the Houses of Parliament, which are deserted. Well, that's all we have for this week. Look after yourselves, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time.
Stay happy, stay nerdy. You can find us on social media and all other audio platforms. See you guys.